And so he was talking about like having this press conference and like making all these demands. I felt like that sounded like a terrorist. Like, I don't want to do that. And so, but I was sitting there, and as he was talking, I like got this idea, and I'm like, we need a visual. Because I'm like, we're talking about these numbers and nobody cares. Like, they're saying, oh, the average cost added to a home is $36,000. Well, that's a huge number, but the common layperson can't picture $36,000, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's got to be a better way to message this. So I was thinking, and all of a sudden I'm like, people understand $1,000, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, you can picture what $1,000 would buy you. So I'm like, let's take a look at what $1,000 of lumber, how much you would get in fall of last year in October.
Can I pause for a second and just note that we got Brian on here who's getting Congressman Massey on, and our typical lineup includes like homeless people that believe in Bigfoot.
Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show, your source for common sense politics on the We Are Libertarians network. The Brian Nichols Show is the fastest growing liberty podcast that brings together people from all means of political thought as we seek to have meaningful conversations about the issues you care about. At the Brian Nichols Show, our goal is to leave the audience educated, enlightened, and informed. And now your host, Brian Nichols.
Well, happy Friday there, folks. We made it through another weird week. And yes, of course, I am your humble host here, Brian Nichols, on today's special episode of the Brian Nichols Show. I say special because let's start off by just acknowledging elephant in the room. The internet is a weird place. I found a tweet, or rather, no, not even a tweet. I found a post on Facebook that I thought was interesting. I screenshotted that post, shared it on Twitter, and that post was about the cost of lumber increasing from the fall to the spring of 2020 to 2021 and showing the difference in the cost of lumber. And that got retweeted by Rob Schneider. Yep, that happened. And then David Belman, the original author and poster of said post on Facebook, reached out and said, hey, that's me. And I said, hey, let's have a conversation. So we did just that. And what a conversation it was, because David not only was the author of said tweet or said post, I keep on saying tweet, said post, but he also is the head of Belman Homes and host of the Home Building Hero podcast, and directly got to experience firsthand the impact, not just of the different economic policies that we've been seeing really come to fruition here over the past few months to a year, but also the direct impacts of the COVID-19 government lockdowns. A great conversation with David, also a great preview to a conversation I joined him over on his show, the Home Building Hero podcast, where we discussed all things from cybersecurity to sales and all that in between. So a great episode over there airing on Monday. But here on today's Friday episode, a great episode, of course, in store for you. So with that being said, on to the show, David Belman here on the Brian Nichols Show.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. I'm excited to be on your program and just appreciate all the stuff that you're doing and your massive social media presence. And we got connected through Twitter and you shared something really cool. And here we are. So
isn't it funny how social media happens that way? It brings people together. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Most of the time, right? Otherwise, sometimes it tears people apart. But
yeah, well, let's look at the positive here in this example. It brought us together. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. How this entire exchange started was I had shared a Twitter meme that was actually retweeted by Rob Schneider.
Yes.
And it was focusing on the price of lumber from, I forget the time frame. It was maybe June of last year to June of this year. Something I forget the time frame, but correct me if I'm wrong. That was originally organically shared over on your page, correct?
Correct. So what happened, kind of long story short, is I'm a home builder by trade. And so I was getting frustrated with what's happening with pricing lumber. We got through the pandemic and it was, for a couple months when the pandemic started, things were just dead. And so we finally had some business. We booked a lot of work. And then all of a sudden we're just watching our margin just get squeezed out of these jobs because lumber prices just shot up. And so I kind of got fed up, and I'm involved at my state and my national association. So I happened to be on a call with Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, very outspoken guy. He's like, you guys need to be loud and you need to be bold. You need to do something. And so he was talking about like having this press conference and like making all these demands. I felt like that sounded like a terrorist. Like, I don't want to do that. And so, But I was sitting there, and as he was talking, I like got this idea, and I'm like, we need a visual. Because I'm like, we're talking about these numbers and nobody cares. Like they're saying, oh, the average cost added to a home is $36,000. Well, that's a huge number, but the common layperson can't picture $36,000, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's got to be a better way to message this. So I was thinking, and all of a sudden I'm like, people understand $1,000, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, you can picture what $1,000 would buy you. So I'm like, let's take a look at what $1,000 of lumber, how much you would get in fall of last year in October versus June is when I did the picture. So I did the math. I reverse engineered it all, did all the math. This is how many pieces of OSB, this is how many studs. And I was like, it seems like a significant difference. So I called the lumber yard and I'm like, I don't want to buy this because it's so expensive right now. So I called the lumber yard and he's like, yeah, we can make we'll pull the material and we'll set them both up side by side. And then I went over there with my team. We took a couple pictures. We had a hashtag fix lumber and I tweeted it and I put it on Facebook. Actually, Facebook is where it really gravitated right
That's
away.
where I saw it originally. And
Okay.
I screen grabbed it from Facebook and I shared it over on Twitter, which was then retweeted by Rob Schneider.
Yeah, that was crazy that, a comedian of all people.
I know, right?
And he goes in there and I think, I would think a comedian's probably a liberal, right?
You
Well,
think
he's like,
that's
thanks,
the exception.
Biden.
Yeah, the expectation.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I mean, that had 17,000 retweets in a couple hours. And I mean, it was just insane. And it was like that on Facebook too. I normally get, maybe a couple hundred likes. And I mean, I got like 700, shares on the initial post. And then people are messaging me going, hey, somebody stole your picture. And, and I'm like, good. I want people to share this because I want people to see. And so, I mean, I think it did make a difference. We have seen lumber futures go down. But the problem is it's kind of like when gas, when there's a gas crisis, gas goes up immediately when there's a problem, right? The next day it goes up, 50 cents or whatever a gallon. But when it decreases, it doesn't come down at the pump right away. It sometimes takes weeks.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm told with lumber. Even though the lumber futures have dropped down, they're still way over. Like right now, just to give you a number, so you can put a thought behind it. But a typical, lumber future is like $450, $425 per thousand for 1,000 board feet of lumber. It got up to 1,600. Okay, and then they're like, oh,
quadruple price.
Yeah, I think they said it was like 700 times. It's just
insane.
ridiculous. And then it went down to like about 1,000, and everyone's like, "Oh, wow, this is the largest reduction in lumber futures in history." And it's like, it's still like
relative
over
to what?
double. Yeah, still over double. And so I'm told it could take up to 21 weeks for lumber prices to actually get, to see this difference really affect people, because a lot of the lumber yards have bought this material. And it doesn't just disappear right away. And they're not going to, just because the futures have went down a couple bucks, they're not going to sell the material that they paid top dollar for,
right?
For that low price. I mean, they go out of business. So they have to get rid of the inventory. And so it's,
wow,
it's insane.
It's insane. Cause I mean, how can you at all forecast or effectively plan anything when costs are going up 700% in 6+ months within 6 to 12 months. How can anybody run a business?
Yeah, it's just a death mark almost out of business, because you can't plan anything. And I had a job that we've built this home before, and like 2 years ago I built it, and the lumber was like $46,000 for the lumber on this home at that time. And we have a customer building it now, and I got the lumber quote. It was $125,000 for the same house.
That's wow.
And it's like, okay, well, I don't make that kind of money on the house. So when it goes up by that much, and it goes up so quickly, I mean, the prices were escalating so fast, you just can't keep up with it. And so there's a lot of builders that have just either, hey, we're just not even going to build anything right now. And I don't know how you stay in business doing that. I've absorbed a lot of these increases myself. And, the only fortunate thing for myself is I have a business where we do real estate, we do land development and home building. So I use the restaurant model, which I wouldn't say is a good model, but a restaurant, they don't make money on the food, right? They only make money on maybe the bar. So the land is my bar, and the building right now is my food. And so, we're not going to be profitable on that for a while, and it is what it is. But I also, the trades and the labor situation is so bad that I am really trying to make sure I keep my trades working, because there's just so few of them that if I lose them and I don't get them back, I'm not gonna be able to build the homes.
Tell me more about that, because that might be an area people really, they're not talking about. I mean, we see
it's huge.
Yeah, you see like the economic implications of printing was a third of the entire amount of dollars printed in, I think it was a year and a half, 2 years or so, just because they're like, hey, we have a pandemic, so let's just print money, I guess. So what's that impact been like from an employment standpoint?
So one of the huge factors too with lumber that we're seeing is it relates to labor. And you got the government paying people an extra $300 to sit at home. And especially for the trades, we were already behind, because when the housing recession hit back in 2010, and it lasted for a very long time, we lost half our workforce. And we never got it back. And unfortunately, we took out the tech programs in our schools on top of it. So what's happened is we have probably 6 to 8 years of kids in school that never got exposed to the pride of making something, the pride of building something, making that bird feeder and being proud of it. They didn't get exposed to that. And so what do they want to do? They want to play with their smartphones. They want to make an app. They want to be the next, TikTok influencer. And the reality is we don't need that that much in the society. We need people to make things. We need to build things. And so we lost that on top of it. And then you incentivize people by staying home. And I've heard the impact is anywhere from 17 to the actual impact being like $25 an hour for some of these people when you take out the tax implications, to just sit at home and do nothing. And
can you blame them? I mean, really, can you blame them if that's the incentive structure in place?
Yeah, I mean, I can't live my life like that. I just I can't. And I'm that's where I joke that I'm one part libertarian, because like when the PPP programs came out, I turned my back on all of them because I didn't want the government meddling in my business, and I didn't want to be beholden to the government. And so I made the hard decisions in my business. I laid off a couple people. We went to a 4-day work week. I still worked, 6 days a week, but I worked 2 days for nothing just to make sure that, we could be around. And, I'm glad I did that at the end of the day, but we ended up being very busy. I probably shouldn't have laid anybody off, but you had to do what you had to do. But this goes back to the lumber issue. You got everybody sitting at home. There aren't enough truck drivers out there. So you got lumber sitting in places they can't get it out. We have issues. My flooring guy told me a story. It was pretty amazing. The material's here, right? So sometimes the problem is that a lot of stuff's made in China and it's just not getting out of the ports. Well, here he's got material that's sitting in a shipyard in Chicago, like a trucking shipping yard, and he can't get to it, and they can't ship it out. So he's like, well, I'll get my own semi truck. I will drive it down there and I will get it myself. Well, they won't let him on because he's not union. So that's the first problem. There's that whole thing. But then there's crates and crates of other materials that they have to be moved before you can even get to it. And so you've got this situation where there aren't enough truck drivers, aren't enough workers to even get the stuff from point A to point B. So we have product here, but we can't even get to it.
Wow. I mean, so let's look at this now a little bit more from your personal perspective. Let's directly talk about the lockdowns and then the implications, because I know we saw this across the board. Now you're up in Wisconsin, by the way.
Yes.
So you were next door to one of, I'd say, the scariest states, and that was Michigan with Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Well, yeah, we're surrounded by craziness because we got Michigan on the one side with Whitmer, and then we got Illinois, who is just bleeding to death, and then we have Minnesota with all the violence, and we're sitting there sandwiched in the middle. Like, I think we're the normal people here.
So yeah, talk about that then. Like, what was, I guess, number one, that experience like as a business owner? Because candidly, it's your stories that we need to be telling more of, because you guys experienced really the number one. I think this is the number one issue I have with a lot of folks on the left is the misconceptions of, well, all these business owners, come on, David, they just sit there on their, their big golden chairs and they
Yep.
have their private jets.
Yeah,
And
I'm eating my steak dinner and smoking
right,
cigars and
lucky
laughing
man
all the way to
you.
the bank on my $100 bill stacks, right?
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the reality though. I mean,
No.
there was some,
And
you spoke to it. There were hard decisions that had to be made. We saw that across the board. I saw it in my company. We saw it pretty much anywhere that there was, a position where it's like, okay, are you really necessary? Are you truly essential or not?
correct.
That
Yep.
was the decision-making process there versus a government deciding that. So let's talk about that process on your end. You get hit with this lockdown, you get hit with this pandemic. How do you adapt and react with all these extra factors that you just really can't control?
Yeah, it's, you just have to constantly be innovating. You have to constantly be talking to your team. You have to try and make the best decisions you can with the information you have. And, in the back of your mind, you're sitting there thinking, this seems a bit excessive, right? Like, this is like, do we really need to be doing all this? But, at first it was like, okay, I'm going to be the good citizen. I'm going to follow every single thing to the T. And, we implemented a bunch of safety procedures. We closed our models. We only did things by appointment. We started pivoting to a lot of, I hate the word pivot, by the way. I can't believe I just said that. But, we went to like virtual and we did video tours and stuff like that. And then we're like, well, we'll slow down our model home production because we don't want to have a lot of inventory out there, because we built our company when the pandemic hit that we may not sell another house for the rest of the year. And we were able to survive that way. But it turns out that after the first lockdown got lifted, we're fortunate that we have a very conservative assembly and we have a conservative Senate. We have an idiot governor, unfortunately, who basically is put in place just to stop things. That's his main goal, is just to make sure nothing happens. So, basically they threw out his lockdown order and then things just exploded. So we went from like dead stop to full sprint. And I always explain it like turning on a fire hydrant full bore. It just comes blasting out. So we had all these people needing to get into houses right away. So we sold a ton of stuff. Like we went from having almost zero sales from the first half of the year to having one of my best years ever in a 6-month period. So like basically doing double the volume in, a short period. And that's stressful on your team. It's stressful on everybody that trades. And then the other thing that's crazy that happened out of this is that normally we have like a dozen homes in inventory. And so they're move-in ready. Well, at the end of the year, I was down to, actually it was in February. I should say this correctly. In February of this year, we sold our last finished home. I have no finished homes even available right now. The shelves are empty.
Wow.
Homes are the new toilet paper. And,
wow.
yeah, and then we had some condos, and I
just
sold out. I sold out of the condos too. So now we're just literally, and then I'm so busy building customer homes that we're backlogged on that. So we're finally just starting to build some models now.
12 homes that you usually have. That's like in reserve almost. Is that what?
Yeah, like just 12 move-in ready homes that somebody can just buy right now and move into within 30 days or 45 days.
So again, this is all stuff that it's impossible to plan for. And I guess the added stress on the business you're talking about, not just on the business, but on the employees, on the vendors, on the trades people, like there is so many externalities that go hand in hand. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like when you just put an artificial pause button on all society, that you just can't unpause it and expect it just to wake up as if nothing happened. You've disrupted supply chains. You've disrupted.
The supply chain is just ridiculous right now. And we're every day we're finding something that we can't get. And I was getting frustrated earlier in the year. I was working with a customer and we're going on the Kohler website, and Kohler's a huge company. They're from Wisconsin, so I'll give them a plug. But
there you
go. They have normally like all these different faucets and all these different finishes. And all of a sudden I'm going on the website and one day it's on there, the next day it's discontinued. And the next day something else is discontinued. And they're paring back their stuff because they just can't make it and deliver it at all. And so, we're getting calls every day like, hey, this tile is discontinued. You got to pick something else out. And so we're constantly readapting. We're constantly calling our customers and being like, sorry, guess what? You can't get now. Now you got to go pick something else out. And it's irritating. It's frustrating for them. It's hard for us. And you're working twice as hard for less, really, at the end of the day.
So unfortunately, we're already facing the last back 10 minutes of the episode. So I want to make sure we're focusing, and you spoke to the people you're helping, right? And it's the people who are looking for new homes, or they're trying to figure out the best way to maybe renovate their home or fix up their home. You're hosting a podcast, the Home Building Hero podcast.
Yes,
and
that's
David,
correct.
you've been hosting that now. I think I saw 380 plus episodes. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually it started like 2 years ago. I do 3 a week, and they started off as sort of just me doing subject matter. It was originally just for home buyers, and then I started doing some industry news, and then I started doing trends, and it just kind of took off. It's been very solid. I have a very good loyal listener base, and I've been adding in interviews with people, and we've done some fun ones too that just kind of story times and some stuff like that. So all sorts of different things. And yeah, it's been going really well. And I've been able to become a kind of a voice of housing. And obviously housing affordability is a huge, focus of mine as well. And I'm going to throw a number out at you, and I'm going to have you guess it first, but so I'm going to put you on the spot, but
okay.
How much money do you think is added to the cost of a home due to local, state, and federal regulation? If you could throw a number.
Now is this like across the U.S.?
I know the number for Wisconsin, but they are different in every state. But
let's see. I just bought a home 2020, so I'm just trying to go back to what I did then. I'm gonna say, is it a percent or a dollar amount?
You could do either. I can work.
I'm gonna say like if it was a dollar amount. Actually, no, I'll do a percent. I'm trying to think like a percent of the home. I would say like what, 15 to 20% of the home cost.
You're not too far off. It's 25% of the cost of the home is due just to government regulation. So in Wisconsin here, yeah, it's disgusting. $84,671 in Wisconsin is what is added to the cost of a home due to local, state, and federal regulations. And the majority of that comes on the land side, but there's a good part of it still on the home building side. And California, I think it's closer to like $600,000, which is insane.
Well, do you? I'm okay. There's a bad assumption. You're in the trades. Do you watch like HGTV and such, like all that kind of stuff?
No, not really. And when I do, it's just kind of like, yeah, right. Like especially these ones where it's like, oh, we got the cabinets for $2,000, and we did this whole remodel for $3,000. You're like, there's no way. And heck, you did that. Half that stuff had to be donated, and the labor's all free. And yeah, there's no way. Those numbers are
because when
phony.
you watch those shows, like I'll see the ones that go in the West Coast, and the houses are just they're nothing special. But you look at what they'd be relative to their more, we'll say, flyover state cousins, and they are $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 more expensive. And I'm from upstate New York originally, so I'm used to wide open spaces. And even just moving from there down to Philadelphia and experiencing just going from big to small, that was a huge, big change in that regards. But then looking at the cost of homes, and I'm like, oh my God, I could buy, a mansion up in northern New York versus what I would find here in Philadelphia. And I mean, it does go to the affordability question. Now, you would do something really cool over at your end, David. So I want to dig into that in terms of actually helping put your money where your mouth is in terms of helping with affordable homes. So let's dig into that. But you have a little bit of a twist to it. It's helping specific people. So let's talk about that a little bit. You have, what's this new, or not necessarily new, but this program that you focus on?
Sure. So kind of long story short, several years ago when I was kind of taking over the family business, I had to buy out my brother from the company. That was really difficult and going through some tough times. And I was at a builder show in Las Vegas, and I saw this organization, and they invited me to this event, and they surprised a veteran with a brand new mortgage-free home. And it's called Operation Finally Home. And they had the story of this veteran who basically wanted to serve his whole life, 20 plus years. And he had that all taken away in just a horrific moment when an IED blast crushed his legs in a vehicle. He had to have his legs amputated. And then the worst part of the story was the guy had 6 kids at home that he had to somehow take care of. And it's just a gut-wrenching story. And then they showed how they surprised him with a brand new home, and it totally changed his life and gave him a fresh start. It gave him the ability to go back to school, heal, spend time with his family, all the good things that he needed and deserved. And I was like, wow, I really want to be a part of that. And at the time I was down in Texas, and homes in Texas are fractionally the cost of what they are here in Wisconsin. So I was like, how am I going to do this? And so I sat on it a little bit, and then I had an opportunity to do one of these projects. They wanted to do one in Milwaukee here, and they wanted to do a housing study, and they were going to benefit this organization. And I was the only person in the room that knew about it. And I jumped in right away and said, I'm going to do this. And then I was like, holy cow, what did I just commit to? And it was like a 2-hour drive on the way home from this meeting. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh. And my father was still in the business at the time. I'm like, my dad's going to kill me when I tell him we're going to give away a home for free. But he served in the military, so he was super excited about it, and told the team they were really excited about it. And yeah, we work with our trades. We get as much material and labor donated as possible, and then we do events to raise money. So I've done everything. I put on a rock concert. I've put on. We do golf outings. We do some shoots. We do all sorts of fun stuff. And so proud to say that I've completed 6 of these projects, and we're working on number 7. So
that's so cool.
Pretty awesome
that just makes
stuff.
You smile. Like I'm literally sitting here this entire time, just like nodding and smiling in agreement. Because I mean, at the end of the day, now we've actually maintained a very overtly non-political conversation, believe it or not, and it's ironic enough for a mostly political show. But when we look at one of these underlying themes that I'm finding more and more across the board, people are just looking for good, honest, authentic people who are out there answering the problems that they see around them with, being the solutionaries, really going out and trying to be the change you wish to see in the world. And David, I mean, what you're doing is actually changing people's lives. And I cannot understate that enough. I mean, the fact that you're actually out there doing that and leading by example, and it's inspiring other people when they hear that message to go out and do the same. So, I mean, I want to just, number one, raise that up because that's incredible. And we need more folks like you doing that. No, for sure. But number two, I want folks to obviously learn more and be able to dig into, number one, what you're doing over at your podcast, but also to, if they could, support, number one, this awesome venture that you're doing, helping support these military veterans who are coming home and looking for, an opportunity to actually be home. But number two, if we have fans up there in Wisconsin who are looking to get a new home, they can go ahead and check out
they can apply.
Homes. That's right. There it is. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. So again, my company is Belman Homes, so I do build some homes for profit. I try to anyway, right? But that allows me to do some of these other passion projects, and Operation Flying Home is obviously one of them. And what's really cool about it is, we did one, we said, let's do one, and it went really well. And it was so rewarding that we're like, we have to do this again. And so we made the commitment, and this is something that's just really cool. When we decided to do the second home, we didn't really have any money or anything ready to go to do this. And so we announced it. The newspaper put a little story in the paper, and someone saw it and they called me and they said, hey, we really like what you're doing here. How much do you need to raise to build this next home? And I was like, well, I need to probably get about $120,000, and then we should be able to get the rest with donations. And they're like, well, if you were to get that money, what would you do? And I'm like, I'm going to build another one. And they're like, that's exactly what we want to hear, and we're going to give you the money. And it was like, holy cow, someone that kind of money. So before we even started the project, we had it funded. And it was like, it was just so cool to see good things like that get shared and continue to move on. So if someone wants to learn a little more, they can go to operationfinallyhome.org. And if you're a veteran and you're 70% or more disabled and you need help, you can apply there. It's a pretty extensive process. They do find very, very deserving people. There's a lot of deserving veterans out there, but we can only help a few. So we really, are looking for somebody with, a severe need and a very interesting story to share, because that all helps, create the awareness for what we're doing.
I'm going to be on your program coming up here.
Yes, you are.
Actually, so we're recording here on Sneak Behind the Curtain, guys, June 29th. And this episode is going to be airing the following Friday. And I'll be actually on your program between now and then. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation. I'm actually kind of curious to see where we're going to bring this conversation because I love the opportunity to dig into things, sometimes overtly non-political, but also Star Wars related. I know we talked there beforehand. We both have our admiration for Star Wars. And yes, unfortunately, the old Star Wars toys that get toss away. Oh, fun fact, by the way, good book you should go ahead and check out. It's How the Force Can Change the World by friend Stephen Kent. It's coming out here at the end of the year, and I'm going to be interviewing Stephen here coming up on, actually,
Awesome.
I'm recording tomorrow, the 30th with him, but it'll be airing here the following week as well. So make sure, folks, you check out that amazing book. Just sneak peek. It's I'm so excited. He has an awesome show, by the way, called Beltway Banthas, talking about the application of Star Wars philosophy to the applications of what we do here in our natural life, you know, how we interact with one another in society and government and so on. It's a really
it's
cool
amazing
show.
how it mirrors.
So
and
it really does.
I can always talk about Star Wars. I mean, I grew up in the 70s, and I remember seeing Empire Strikes Back in the theater. It was like the first movie I ever saw, and I was instantly hooked. And I don't know how many times I've seen that movie, probably over 20. And
I know my mom regrets finding the trilogy set at a garage sale and bring him home. Brian, you want to watch some Star Wars? Those poor VHS tapes, they never stood a chance. Multiple rewatches through.
Yep, I'd throw that thing in and watch it. And that was my life. Every Saturday morning, it was like, okay, you got to throw in Star Wars. And you get the toys out and you recreate the scenes, and it was good stuff. So,
well, folks, if you want, obviously, to hear this conversation continue, well, here's what you're going to do. Head over to David's amazing podcast. It is the Home Builder Hero podcast, and you can check that out and find it all wherever you find your major podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, I'm assuming, and all those in between. With that being said, David, thank you so much for all you're doing. Thanks for the entrepreneur work you're doing, the philanthropic work you're doing, and all the other work you're doing here. But with that being said, thank you for joining us here on the Brian Nichols Show.
Brian, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to wrap up my conversation with David Belman. 25% the cost of homes due to government regulations. Okay, that's fun. Well, if you thought that was insane, as much as I did, please do me a favor. Share today's episode. Tag yours truly, B Nichols Liberty, Twitter, Facebook, also Instagram and TikTok. I know you're like, Brian, what are you doing on TikTok? I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. What I'm doing on TikTok and also on Instagram is I'm doing a quick video synopsis of my morning sales huddle. You want to know how to do a personal SWOT analysis? We're going to talk about taking risk. Why do people buy? How to avoid different pitfalls in sales. All that and more every single day in your inbox, Monday through Friday. And of course, over on Instagram and TikTok, as I mentioned, a quick video summary of that. But if you want to get the full actual written version in your inbox every single day, head over to briannicholsshow.com. Leave your email address right there at the contact us, or go ahead and go to briannicholsshow.com/Liberty Friends ebook. Why? Because you're going to get the most amazing book about how to sell liberty to friends and family in 4 easy steps. And guess what the book is called? 4 easy steps you can take now to implement to sell liberty to friends and family. And guess what? The ebook is free. How about that? All you have to do, go ahead and put your email address, because you want to go ahead and get that awesome email newsletter every single day, don't you, to get my morning sales huddle. So again, head over to briannicholsshow.com/Liberty Friends ebook. And of course, if you are getting value from, in fact, helping sell liberty, I would love to hear about it. So email me, Brian, at briannicholsshow.com. And also, if you are, in fact, helping support libertarian entrepreneurs and helping pique interest by supporting the Brian Nichols Show shop over at Proud Libertarian, I would love to hear about that as well. So please, number one, if you have not had the chance yet, head over to briannicholsshow.com/shop. It will bring you right to the Proud Libertarian store, and you can get access to everything in our shop. From, of course, right here, I'm sporting this Don't Hurt People, Don't Take People Stuff t-shirt on top of our Don't Hurt People, Don't Take People Stuff bumper sticker. We have, look at this. This is so fun. This finally came in the mail. I was so excited. I have a nice mug, Brian Nichols Show mug. Isn't that fancy? And a slew of other things. My good ideas don't require force, snapback, and more. It's really a great chance, yes, to get people to smile, to laugh, to ask more questions, but also you get to help support libertarian entrepreneurs. It's a win-win if I ever heard one. briannicholsshow.com/shop. Now, I also showed you this Don't Hurt People, Don't Take People Stuff bumper sticker, and I say that for you YouTube listener, you saw that pop up. You can also get that at the Brian Nichols Show shop, or if you sign up to be one of our Patreon subscribing members there at $5 or $10 a month. And by the way, really quick, I want to give a special shout out to our amazing Patreon subscribers, Daryl Schmitz, Laura Stanley, Michael Lemma, Mitchell Mankiewicz, Hody Johns, Craig DaCosta, and the big channel at We Are Libertarians. Thank you for supporting the program. As yes, entry level and account level executives, what do you get there? You get access to Q&As, webinars, and access to Chris Goizetta's entire library of marketing resources. He's an actual college professor, folks. What? And you're getting that just for $5 or $10 a month? Yeah, that's just part of the value you're going to be getting as a Patreon supporting listener here of the Brian Nichols Show. So again, head to briannicholsshow.com/support. Patreon link will be right there. Actually, it brings you right to Patreon, I believe. So even better. Or you can see the Patreon link at the main homepage, briannicholsshow.com. Guys, what a week. We had such a great week learning about monetary policy, learning why your Facebook ads aren't working, and of course, now learning about the direct impact of government and the various regulations on the home building industry. Thank you for really sticking with us on an amazing week here on the Brian Nichols Show. Coming up on Sunday, Natalie Bruno. She is running for governor of Oklahoma. We get to figure out all things from an actual marketing and salesperson's perspective, because Natalie, she actually worked on Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen's campaign as their marketing guru back in the 2020 campaign. A great chance to dig into specific issues that Natalie is focusing on in Oklahoma, but also to get her marketing guru mentality as it pertains to how we can help bring libertarian ideas to the masses. So make sure you do not miss that special Sunday Candidate Highlight Series. But with that being said, it's Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for David Belman. We'll see you Sunday.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.